Hello, beautiful community. As you know, I'm a former pig owner, and both of my pigs, Ruby and Hillary, could have predicted the fallout between Trump and Musk. So we don't need to dwell on giving people credit for having made articles and videos anticipating this. It was more a question of how and when. So let's review very briefly the latest sparks and then give ourselves a foundation of why this story ended up this way and what's going to be happening next for Musk, because Musk is going to be, in my view, not normalizing his politics, but radicalizing it and turning on a system of which now he sees Trump to be a part. Now, Musk said, without me, Trump would have lost the election and the Dems would control the House and the Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate. Such ingratitude directed at Trump. Trump says, I'm very disappointed with Elon. I've helped him a lot, and he knew the inner workings of the bill we're talking about better than anybody sitting here. And then Musk replies, false. This bill was never shown to me, and even once, and was passed in the dead of night, so fast that almost no one in Congress could even read it. And then Musk started picking up old Truth Social messages from Trump, where Trump was disagreeing with his future self and using that against Trump. So the sparks have begun to fly, and they will only fly more. Now, there are two reasons fundamentally why this happened. But first, we have to appreciate that Trumpism is itself a very incoherent project. The Musk Trump clash is in part an illustration of the tensions between the nationalist populism in Trumpism and the techno-futurism elements that don't sit together well. And what this means is that while we've got to be serious about democratic decline in the West, that American democracy is heading for hurdles harder and bigger than Trump, that's not the same thing as Trumpism succeeding. So Trumpism is on course for implosion. That's one important thing to understand. But that's quite separate from the question of whether there'll be a return to normal of some kind. There won't be. What there is going to be is a continuation of anti-democratic politics that'll just take a more serious and a more competent form than Trumpism takes. So don't confuse the inevitable implosion of Trumpism with, and the way Trumpism will be, absorbed into history without a squeak, and some kind of return to democracy as you normally like to have it served to you. That won't happen. So the good news is the implosive nature of Trumpism, but the bad news is that that doesn't change the general trajectory of US democracy and Western democracies, all in all. Now, is my microphone on? It is. Now, two elements pull this picture apart fundamentally. One is that Musk is not just spectacularly bad at politics. I mean, this is a man who can be a visionary entrepreneur. And let's have comments now, please. Let's have a few dozen at least saying, what's so visionary about Musk? What's he good at all? Surely there's nothing he's good at. These are bot-like comments, but they're very triggered by your nervous system now because you want to say Musk is good at nothing. And so it's very important to write that down in the comments. Make sure you do that. And I want to see quite a few comments like that. What exactly are you talking? What kind of talent does he have? I don't think Musk has got any talent at all. Right? Make sure to write that down. Sorry to be teasing you like that. But Musk is so spectacularly bad at politics. He's genuinely bad at politics compared with a random 16-year-old we could just pull out of the first school we encountered down the street. So this is not some kind of hyperbolic claim. It's not an exaggeration. He's genuinely that bad. And what makes him so spectacularly bad is that he doesn't just have an enormous amount of confidence commenting on issues and taking a position on issues. He has a propensity to develop that commentary at rapid speed to get from A to B straight away on an issue that actually takes 6 months to understand. And it's worse than this, because it's not just that Musk can convince himself he's grasped an issue fully if somebody's just emailed something to him. Let's say somebody from the UK has emailed something to Musk about UK politics, of which he knows nothing. And then suddenly Musk says, oh, yes, that and this is happening and it's terrible. But it's the rapidity with which he does that. And all it takes for Musk to form a completely consolidated view is to do a little bit of Googling and searching around and to receive a couple of emails from people. That's it. So it's almost sort of cataclysmically, epistemically doomed to failure, his approach to understanding political issues. And why am I saying it's worseness? It's worseness because that's not just how Musk relates to particular issues. That's how he relates to politics as a whole. He thinks that politics as a whole is a game that he could rapidly enter if only the other actors in it weren't like Trump but were rational, and simply fix. And that's the kind of view of the village philosopher, if you like, the most intelligent person in the village in which nobody has encountered the serious problems of life that this person is trying to solve. And so he thinks he can solve them without having understood how difficult they are. So that's Musk, this sort of rapid, totalistic acceleration toward confidence on an issue and in a domain in which he is imbecilic. But the other side of this is Trump. And there are two elements here. One is the lack of strategy in what Trump is doing. I mean, just think about the tariffs for a moment. A Money and Macro colleague of the channels did a big video on a possible strategy behind the tariffs. But that really missed what was psychologically and politically true. Namely that it wasn't even possible for the Trump administration to have a conversation with itself about what the strategy was. Trump was incapable of that because it would require admitting weaknesses and bits of ignorance of which he is conscious, but to which he could never concede, as it were. So the administration couldn't even picture what outcome they were trying to get to. Not only that, they couldn't even have a conversation about picturing an outcome like that. That included Trump. And then worse, that's not even strictly speaking a failure on Trump's terms. Because for Trump, the drama is more important than the outcome. The drama of the tariffs is the goal of the tariffs in the first instance. And only in the second instance do secondary goals come in, like some somewhat ideological beliefs that Trump might actually have inherited from himself from the 80s and 90s. He has very few beliefs, but he does have beliefs about tariffs. But even these are secondary to the need for drama, which means no matter how this ends up, Trump wins, as long as the development is dramatic enough. So with that being true about Trump, and that thing we've said about Musk being true about Musk, this was inevitable. What's next for Musk? Now, Anthony Scaramucci has remarked once or twice that by 2028, Musk might be back with the Democrats. I think that's... even though Anthony's very psychologically insightful about power dynamics, that's, I think, an unfortunate bit of, well, it's something that rings a note of optimism that nevertheless I think misunderstands what Musk's about. The Democrats should absolutely try to get Musk back, which is good politics, but Musk will not return to the center. He will radicalize. And if you understand also not just neurodiversity, but the way Musk's neurodiversity sits in him and his failure to regulate his own neurodiversity, you'll understand that he will only consolidate his stance. He will only radicalize. And he will now say, this just proves all the more how much there's a problem with the system. Because if even Trump is co-opted by the system needs serious smashing. Musk will radicalize and be more sympathetic toward I would say, the next generation of anti-democratic political forces in Western society. And he might see Trump as part of a system, and he might see the system, whatever that means to him, as something that more than ever needs to be smashed. So this is not going to be a move to the center. It's going to be radicalization for Musk. Lots of left talk soon.